Well, the Hawks, they are 2-0 and they are looking good, as we sort of said, as they were last year. Last year, we sort of talked about their strengths, one of them being the ground ball, which is basically any contested possession one at ground level that's not a mark. They were number one last year by some way.
And it was most of it was post clearance too, so that's out once the ball's kicked or handballed away from stoppage, where you really have to go and hunt.
Go and get the footy, yeah. Really hunting, really like endeavour, effort. I mean, these are sort of the things you can kind of sort of say when you quantify it. But I thought we'd ask and have them check in on the Hawks to see how they're doing it so far with a little bit of a bigger sample size than other teams that we have. Are they still leaning on this as a strength in 2025?
Yeah, not at all. So week 1, -14 in this stat. Week 2, -10 against Essendon. So lost the post-clearance ground ball in both games this season, which was their number one strength. But then that's, to me, it's just a huge positive for them that what they were doing in their start of their rebuild, and that's when I spoke about this halfway through last year when we found it. They were still maybe 4 and 5, and their post-clearance ground ball was the best, almost up with the best we've ever seen, up with Essendon 2000 and Geelong 2009, who were two of the best, most dominant teams. So that was their sort of phase 1 of their rebuild. You can't sort of rely on just one part of your game, as we spoke about Carlton. Carlton can't just win contested possessions and expect to win. So what Hawthorn's been able to do is sort of go, okay, we know we're really, really good at that. Now let's sort of expand on the rest of the game. So even just looking at their 2 wins this year, as I said, they lost the post-clearance ground balls in both games. Essendon smashed them around contest. Essendon had more territory than them, won more clearances than them. So Hawthorn got them on the transition, scored 52 points from back half and 30 points from their forward half chain. So really relied on, okay, you're getting to the ball first, but we'll absorb and then we'll get you on the transition. Round 0, with their first game against Sydney, it was the complete opposite way. Hawthorn was sort of on top of the contested possessions, won the territory battle and scored 52 points from forward half stoppages. So got first use of the ball, dumped it forward, kept it forward and scored from that forward half choking sort of game and 30 points from the back half. So a complete flip of what they did in round 1. Even just across the 2 games so far, you can basically make that quote of they can win anyway.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I was going to ask you, as someone who's probably watched footy with this sort of analytical eye for a long time, is it more encouraging or not? Would you rather have a style that you stick to and are good at, and you can win a certain way? Like we talk about, Richmond being that handball meters gained heavy and just absolutely running in waves, and that's how they sort of helped win a premiership or a bunch of premierships. Or would you rather have this sort of, hey, for this opposition we can do this, and for this opposition we can do this, is with no maybe like standout far and away strength?
I think there's a fine balance. I think the first way you mentioned it is the way you want to go. You want to have a clear, I know you guys, you love this, you want to have a clear one wood brand or whatever way you want to put it, but you need something that and I spoke about it with Essendon last week. I sort of said, Brad Scott's probably one that's under pressure for me because he tried to sell a brand last year, the Essendon Edge, but that sort of fell away by halfway through the year. So they really tried to put it in our face and say, this is who we are, and we didn't see it for the whole year. So yes, you want to have the identity, you want to have that strength to be won at, but you've got to have plan B, plan C, plan D when the opposition is taking away your clear strength. So again, looking at Hawthorn, if you go back to round 17 last year, they got beaten by 50 points against Geelong down at GMHBA Stadium. So sort of taken from round 18 onwards. So they've only lost 2 games since round 18 last year. That was a 2-point loss to the Giants and a 3-point loss in the finals to Port Adelaide. They're number 1 for points for, number 1 for points against in that time. Second best points differential from clearances and number 1 points differential from turnovers. So the 2 main parts of the game, 1 and 2. But then you look at the average points that they get from each of the zones. So from D50, they've scored the 3rd most points of anyone. From the defensive midfield, they scored the most points of anyone. From centre bounces, the 2nd most points of anyone. Attacking midfield, the 2nd most points of anyone. And forward 50, the 2nd most points of anyone.
So there's no deficiency in where they're sourcing their scores.
And that's what I sort of said about this year. They've already proven it. It's like 1 week we're the best team at scoring from back half, and the next week we're one of the best teams at scoring from forward half. So getting scarier and scarier as the weeks go by, Hawthorn, because their strengths are actually starting to appear in so many facets of the game, whereas halfway through last year it was like, they can win a lot of the ground ball, but still a little bit deficient at either end. They weren't great at scoring per inside 50 or protecting it inside 50. Now that's become your sort of top 5, top 6 for scoring, stopping scoring down the other end, and as I said, just being able to, no matter where they start from with the ball, they're a chance to score. So they can play the game on any turn.
They're a lethal team. It starts with that back line and how strong they are now. They've got those new additions in Battle and Tom Barras as well that adds so much to them. But before them,
as well, playing out of that sort of back line and
plays
generating the back half stuff, right?
Yeah, and they've got such good ball users like an Amon as well, and D'Ambrosio on a wing. Just such good kicks of the footy as well. Scrimshaw, although he's not going to be there potentially for a few weeks now, they take the ball down the field so exquisitely that I don't know if any zone can actually handle it. And the question would be, how do you actually beat Hawthorn?
What's the zone you want to beat them in?
Yeah.
I mean, where can you kind of find that?
That's where you've got to flip it to what is our strength,
Yep.
and we've got to go harder at our strengths. You can't, and that's why, to your point before, I don't think you can be reactive every week. I don't think you want to change each week, going, okay, this week we're playing Hawthorn, so we need to do this. This week we're playing Richmond. You need to have one way that you plan to play, and then you've got sort of, little things you can tinker with. And that's what the good teams do. They tinker within a quarter or within, half a match. But by the next round, they'll come back and they'll be back to their main DNA.